Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. And scene. Wait, you don't say that you say that at the end. What do you say at the beginning? Action.
Action.
Yeah.
Is there another thing? I think it's just,
You say action to start and then cut, usually right to end.
Yeah, so when do you say and scene?
Scene, I think that's is that the thing you say as an actor?
In rehearsal.
When you're doing a monologue, when you're monologuing?
But only when you call yourself an actor.
Yeah, that's an actor. Like an actor doesn't say stupid stuff like that.
No. They're beyond that.
They're above it, below it. They're below it.
Beyond, above, and below.
And around and through. Hi, Andrew.
How are you?
Welcome to the show.
Bienvenidos.
I'm so glad you could make it. It's The Next Reel, starring Andy Nelson as Andy.
Aha!
And I'm Pete Wright. And we're going to talk tonight. We're going to wrap up our Heist series with the 1956 film The Killing. This is Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick.
It's a bit of a fun series. You know, heist films, there are so many good heist films. And, I think, we had a good selection this run, but I think, if anything, this series and like comments from people on Facebook, it's become obvious, if it wasn't already, that there are just so many great heist films to choose from. And it's definitely a series that we should revisit.
Yeah, I think so. It's a funny thing that has happened here with these heist films. And you tell me what you think. I mean, I feel like, so we did The Bank Job, The Town, Inside Man, and The Killing. Mm-hmm. So those are our 4 heist films. And we did Now You See Me as our crossover sort of heist film. Right. That was terrible.
That was not a good entry into this series, but
not good. The Bank Job, I think, is better than I remember it. The Town is as good as I remember it. Inside Man, not as good as I remember it.
I completely agree.
Yeah, so that was a tough one. And The Killing is interestingly, I'm excited to talk about this one because it's, the verdict is out on this one a little bit, but I'm very excited to talk about it. I'm excited to go back into this genre of film. In particular, I miss talking about these old black and white flicks.
They're always fun to...
Yeah, I mean, our John Huston series was I have fond memories so many years ago.
So many.
Of our John Huston series, and this kind of rings true to that. But in the meantime, we've got some trailers to talk about. Yes, we don't have any old business. Do we have old business?
I don't think so. I think we're just jumping right in.
Let's just jump right in. So we're going to jump in. You're going to go to thenextreel.com, and you're going to subscribe to the show if you don't already. If you're listening to this on Facebook, head over to thenextreel.com. Go ahead, take the time, make the clicks, subscribe to it in iTunes or in your podcatcher of choice so that you don't miss a show. We come to you each and every week, and we do this thing. So we would love you to join us each and every week. In the meantime, your trailer, sir.
It's my trailer is a film that is coming out next week, actually. I'm guessing it's going to be a fairly limited indie sort of release. It is called Crystal Fairy and the Magical Cactus. It is a big Sundance hit this past year, Best Director Award, World Cinema. Looks like Sebastián Silva made it. He is a Chilean director, and the film stars Michael Cera and Gabby Hoffman. And I can only say, I guess, that this is Michael Cera's, I guess I could call it his Chilean years, because not only is he doing Crystal Fairy and the Magical Cactus with Sebastián Silva down in Chile this year, but also the film Magic, which it's just strange. He must have just hit it off with this director, and he's got these 2 films coming out this year. I think Magic may be available already, but this film, Crystal Fairy and the Magical Cactus, looks like just a crazy time. It's just a crazy film. Michael Cera is an American expat living down in Chile. He's got some buddies down there, and they are in search of this. I don't know if it's a real cactus, but it's called the San Pedro cactus. And they're going to, steep it and make some brine out of it that I guess gives you crazy hallucinations. In this journey, they run into this other crazy American, Gabby Hoffman, who she just looks frightening, and her character is just like one of those characters that kind of draws you in because of the craziness. I don't know. Looks like a wild character to be playing. She's gotten quite a bit of a notice in the film festival circuits. And it looks like a really fun, crazy film. I think it will be a lot of fun to see.
I think so, too. I I like the trailer. I'm a big fan of Michael Cera. So
Absolutely.
I just think that kid's got something going on. So I'll pretty much see whatever he's doing. And I'm so enamored with his work in Arrested Development right now. As you know, we've got quite a big fan of the show. Really big show. So I'm looking forward to it. Looks goofy. Looks awesome. I'm in.
And a little crazy.
Yeah.
A little bit crazy. It does look interesting. And it's completely going the other direction from the other Chilean film that he's doing with Sebastián Silva this year, Magic, which is like a psychological horror film. It's like a totally different direction. So very interesting, I guess, pair of films that this pairing of Michael Cera and Sebastián Silva is making this year. So
awesome.
Anyway, that's the trailer.
All right. Check that one out. I am doing, wow. In a world where it feels like Ethan Hawke is in every movie ever.
It's fast proven that he is.
Comes Getaway. Getaway is his new movie. Comes out, I think, what did we say, August 30th, something like that. It's the end of August. And it is, you know what? I am a sucker for driving movies, I guess. So Ethan Hawke, it's another one of those. What was the Liam Neeson thing that... his daughter was kidnapped. Taken, and
Where
Taken
his daughter
2.
was taken?
His daughter was taken.
What was that
I'm
one
like,
called?
walked away with, or made off with, or what is that movie?
Absconded
with Liam Neeson. Comes Getaway. Courtney Solomon directs this film, written by Sean Finnegan and Greg Maxwell Parker. Stars Ethan Hawke, Selena Gomez, and the multi-accented John Voight, playing a sinister man on a microphone.
Yeah, but he was an easy guy to pin from the trailer. It's like I could see the lips, I could hear the voice. I'm like, oh, that's John Voight.
Look, John Voight. Yeah,
crazy accent.
So it's pretty much. Ethan Hawke his wife is kidnapped apparently for some reason, and he is fairly adept behind the wheel.
In fact, it looks like he spends at least almost the entire trailer behind the wheel.
Yeah.
I think there's only a few shots where he's not.
Yeah, and when he's not, he's like standing next to the car. Right. Like he's always touching a car. Maybe that was one of the secret rules of the shoot. I think it's part of the reason I'm interested in this is, you look at the young Selena Gomez. Does it not seem like she's trying to dirty up her career a little bit?
It does seem that way.
A little bit. Like she does the Disney stuff, and now she's all full on Spring Breakers and Getaway, and I think she's trying to build a little reputation.
Doing something, she's
doing something. I'm not sure it's good, but she's doing something.
Yeah.
So anyway, it looks like I'm just, like I said, I'm a sucker for driving movies, and I like these. I liked... I like the I've already said it, the BMW films with the Clive Owen. I like the Transporter movies, all of them, even the stupid one with the crane. I like them. I like any
with the crane.
Yeah, I think it was Transporter 3 or something.
I
like all these movies. There's a guy in a car. I like all of those movies.
Yeah,
I'm pretty excited about this one. So I'll see it. I know they're Ethan Hawke, whatever, mixed feelings, but I do find I kind of like that guy.
He's one of those guys that I grew up with because I was watching Explorers and all those sorts of films. So I always have kind of that affinity for him just because of that connection from my youth. So it's one of those I still want to see.
I do. And, I look at it and I see him, and, we make sort of fun that it seems like he's in everything right now. And maybe it's just the sort of confluence of media events that we see him in Getaway trailer after just finishing The Purge and the Before Midnight, which has gotten some nice critical acclaim, the wrapping up the trilogy of the Before movies, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and now Before Midnight. But it turns out it's not like he just disappeared. I'm like, looking at his movies, and he's got there's a series of films every year, every other year. He's working quite steadily. And I don't know why they come out and they're just sort of forgettable. He's done some good stuff. I loved Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. But Daybreakers I thought was great. It was an interesting take on vampirism.
Yeah, it was. It was.
You know, he's had a pretty just right now. It feels like Ethan Hawke is everywhere. Well done,
Yeah,
Ethan
it
Hawke's
does.
promoter.
He really has kind of popped, at least.
Yeah.
It maybe it's just because it's been like every other trailer seems like it is an
does
Ethan
feel
Hawke
like it.
one. Yeah.
So anyhow,
The thing that
I'm
makes
raising a glass to Reality Bites right now. Let's just say.
there you go. The thing that makes me a little skeptical about it is Courtney Solomon is directing it. He mostly is a producer. He's produced a lot of films.
Yeah.
Most of which are films I'm not that interested in watching. And that this is only his third directorial effort. The other two being Dungeons and Dragons, the abysmal film from 2000 that was just
Shut your mouth. Shut it. Shut
an
your mouth.
embarrassment for anyone who enjoyed the game when they were young. and then An American Haunting, which it's a fun little horror film, but it wasn't anything to write home about. So I don't know. This film looks like it is definitely high octane, if nothing else. So for that, I'll say, okay, I'll give it a chance.
Yeah. No. Dungeons and Dragons.
Jeremy Irons, what are you doing there? Who did you lose a bet to?
Yeah, seriously. This is definitely a film on a dare.
Yes.
All right. That's what I've got for trailers. And I think that does it for old business. Let's talk heists.
Let's.
The Killing, 1956. Sterling Hayden, which we know Sterling Hayden from
Asphalt Jungle.
Asphalt Jungle, which was one of our favorites. The always handsome, debonair Johnny Clay.
Very rugged guy.
Rugged guy. So what's the story with this film? Why do you love this film?
Well, aside from it being a Kubrick film, I think I would love this film even if it wasn't a Kubrick film. This was I think I'm trying to remember if I actually saw this before or after I saw Pulp Fiction. But it was one of those films that I watched that put it into my head that a film doesn't really need to be told chronologically in order to be successful, and I really enjoy the way that this story jumps back and forth with all these different characters. And I if anything is dated about this film, it is the sense of the narrator trying to define that for you, so that you can really pay attention to, but at 3:30 that afternoon, right. And then at 6 p.m. that evening, and then he's really jumping around in time. That really, if anything, feels more dated with this film. But I find the story so interesting. I find these criminals just enjoyable to watch. Their crime itself, I really get into as it's happening. It all feels very taut and well put together. And it's tragic. I mean, it really fits into the film noir genre that we've talked about a number of times. It has that kind of tragic quality. It has, you could almost say, this femme fatale in the film, and your protagonist is just kind of nothing works out for him. I just enjoy watching it. I enjoy the story. I enjoy the heist itself. I have a lot of fun with this film.
I agree with you, and I want to talk more about that point of linear storytelling in modern motion pictures, because this is an area of sort of history that I am not well versed. But to your point, this is the film that I feel introduced me to that to the idea, as you said, of telling stories non-linearly, right?
Sure.
It feels enormously innovative in its own right. And I think that narrator is sort of hanging a candle on that, right? Because that narrator exists to fill a hole of trust that you sort of feel like somebody in the production didn't quite feel like they were going to be able to get it across. Like we weren't ready to understand this movie told in out of order and from different perspectives, and told again from different perspectives. Each major sequence around each major character, and so this narrator comes into play to give you sort of a lifeline. I don't think they need it, and I think if you were to remake this movie, even a shot-for-shot remake, you could get away with not including any narrator at all. I think you're right. That's what feels dated. I think we've sort of given that up. But the way the film is architected is really quite brilliant for the period.
It's really interesting. This does feel like it was probably one of the first, if not the first, film that jumped around chronologically like this. Listening to the producer James B. Harris talk about this film, he said they cut this film together. He and Stanley really enjoyed the novel that it's based off of by Lionel White called Clean Break, that had that kind of chronological mishmash of how the story was told. It would kind of follow one character, and then it would jump back in time and it would follow another character, and it kind of did that through the novel. They made the film, and that's what really excited them about the novel, and they wrote it that way. And Stanley Kubrick, along with Jim Thompson, that he wrote it with. And when they screened it for the first time, just everybody hated it. One of the heads of, I believe it was United Artists, came up to them after the word and said, I can't believe that you guys wasted our money like this. They were just so disappointed by how the film was structured. They thought it was a complete mess. And it was like a preview screening. And so Harris and Kubrick went back and they actually started re-editing the whole film chronologically, because they were just, they couldn't believe that it gotten such a bad reaction. They started cutting it chronologically, and they were about halfway through or getting close to finishing when they realized, they looked at each other and like, what drew us to this book was this amazing structure that it had. And they had the realization that if the film wasn't doing that, then it wasn't the film that they set out to make. And they cut it back the way that it originally was, which is how we see it now. And it just kind of, with the, United Artists be damned, this is the film that we set out to make. And they made it, and then United Artists kind of sat on it a little bit. They didn't give it a real release date. They had to plug it in at some other film that wasn't doing well. They pulled it off this other bad film. They pulled that off, and they stuck The Killing in without really giving it any advertising or anything. And it really was kind of a big box office failure, even though it got critical praise. It wasn't until later that people really found it, and it became something that stood up and managed to stand the test of time.
Well, and this is, I think, to that point, this is a movie that came, before its time, and it needed to, the audience needed to sort of mature around it. And I think that can be said for a lot of Kubrick's films.
Yeah, probably true.
We weren't quite ready for it. I love this. I love this quote from Eddie Muller in his book Dark City: The Lost World of Film Noir. With The Killing, Stanley Kubrick offers a monument to the classic caper film and a fresh gust of filmmaking in one package. Who knew when he wrapped it that it would be the last amusing movie he'd ever make?
Wow. I don't know if I'd agree with that.
But it's a great quote.
It is a great quote.
Come on.
But I would say, come on, look at Dr. Strangelove.
I know. But, and so who knew that would be his last amusement? Right. That's where I put the stake in the ground.
That is true.
It is, so let's talk a little bit more about the architecture then, as we walk through a little bit of the story. I think the story is interesting, and unless you know the story, the payoff at the end on the tarmac doesn't mean as much.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a racetrack heist, and Sterling Hayden is going about his business of building his crew through the first and second act of the movie, and then executing the heist. But it is told in such a way where we see different segments of the heist itself intercut with each character's kind of backstory. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. It comes in and out as it builds, right?
Yeah, it comes in and out. And so, we see, as the heist is sort of unfolds, we then go back and see the sniper as he's getting his weapons in order. And we see the boxer as he's being approached to come and the boxer chess player.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
pugilist, is to get his hand out. It is that sequence in particular. The actor's name. What is the actor's name? Is that
it's Maurice, yeah,
Obukov.
Yeah, so that's his character's name. So Kola Kwariani.
Kola Kwariani is one of my favorite sequences because it's one of those that illustrates the honor among thieves thing. It's a negotiation about joining this crew for a bit part. I'm going to pay you $2,500 to come make a scene and occupy a whole lot of police. And yes, you're going to go to jail, but you're going to have enough money. It won't be a big deal. You're not going to hurt anybody. It'll just be a disturbance of the peace. And this guy is negotiating. Well, maybe you should just cut me in, or maybe you should. But the whole sequence is so polite.
Yeah.
That these two gentlemen, it's like an art form watching these two. Really, I mean, it is a gentleman's game. These gentlemen are having a conversation like gentlemen about something that is otherwise pretty dark. And I find that so subversive.
It's a fascinating. Well, not only that, but to have it in this chess playing house, which I guess is a real place where they filmed it, called the Flea House, which is in New York City. They filmed the scene there, and Kola Kwariani is actually a chess player, and he actually would frequent the Flea House in New York playing chess. So very much holding true to his character, and Stanley Kubrick being a big chess player himself. I'm not sure if that informed the writing of that scene, but just the fact that we have these two criminals discussing, kind of negotiating the plans for, his participation in this heist was a fascinating scene to have while they're sitting in this room where everyone is playing chess and playing this mental game with each other.
It is wonderful. It is wonderful and ironic. So we go through this sequence. We meet the crew. We meet the sharpshooter. We meet the pugilist. We meet we have already met Johnny Clay. We know he's executing he plays sort of the principal role in executing the crime. We meet the dirty cop who is who plays a role of getting the money out of off the property.
Right, Ted DeCorsia playing the corrupt cop. Yeah. We
meet we meet George, played by Elisha Cook Jr.
Yeah, the window teller who helps him get in, right?
Right,
yeah.
Who helps him get into the backside of the house. We meet all of these guys, and then we see the heist itself, and then and things, as predicted, don't go well.
Yeah.
They go well initially. They get the money. They get out of the track, and now they have to go meet up. It starts to go south when our friend the sharpshooter he has a meeting in the parking lot, and I think this is a beautiful sequence.
It's a great. I love that whole sequence. I love that bit of the film because this character, he's created accidentally this interesting bond with the parking attendant.
Yes.
And because pretending that he is a paraplegic and can't walk, the parking attendant has kind of a gammy leg, and they kind of in a weird way bond. And the way that he talks to the guy, even though he is so friendly and everything, he's always biting his teeth, and
he's hard to watch.
Yeah, it's a fascinating conversation, and this parking attendant's kind of connected to him and keeps coming back to chat with him more and more, even as he's trying to get his gun out and trying to do his part of this whole heist. And it comes across brilliantly, and I think the payoff of it just really it hits really well. Everything from the horseshoe to the shootout in the parking lot and everything.
And that I think is the important note. The parking lot attendant brings him a good luck horseshoe because he thinks that the guy sitting in his car because he can't get in to watch, but he's got his binoculars. He's actually there to assassinate a horse.
Yeah.
But so the attendant comes and brings him a horseshoe. In order to get the attendant to go away, he insults the attendant, and the attendant goes away and throws the horseshoe on the ground.
Yeah.
So he assassinates the horse, throws his car into reverse, backs up over the horseshoe. A flat tire ensues, and he is shot by lot police. And it is a very fast turn, that causes the first of our 8 body count in this film.
Yeah, and one, if that was the only one, I mean, they could have gotten away with everything else if this was the only incident that had happened. But unfortunately, this is noir, and we do have our femme fatale in the form of Marie Windsor playing Elisha Cook Jr.'s horrible wife and doing such a great job at it.
She's so good.
She is just born to be in noir films. I mean, she just does the part so well.
Like she was painted into this movie.
Yeah.
And that relationship starts very early. It's one of the earlier sequences as we see George go home, and he is a cuckold. I mean, she's having an affair on him, and he thinks he can win her back as he, or maybe not even intentionally thinks he can, sort of tell her what he's involved in to win her back. But you can tell the information about the scam starts to just sort of ooze out of him.
Yeah.
The meaner she is, the more hateful she is, the more he tells. And it's like he can't help himself. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a fascinating, painful relationship to watch because he clearly, obviously they got married. There was obviously something there, but it's based on so much just hatred now and this vitriolic attitude she has toward him, and he kind of bites into it and gets angry at her, and then he tries to fix things, and it's just, and the way that he ends up kind of telling everything to her, it's just you can tell because just the way that she plays him, and it's a really interesting manipulative relationship that she has with him.
It is. So she gets all this information out of him, and then she turns around and hands it to her boyfriend. Oh, the wonderful
yes.
Vince Edwards as Val Cannon. And then that's when we cut. That's what ties to our I think the major spilling of blood.
Yeah, that would definitely hold true. Much blood is spilt once he enters the scene, and although interestingly, I had forgotten that George is the one who really starts plugging away and really kind of takes his stand right there, and it was nice to see. You kind of don't expect him to. He seems that meek, mild-mannered window teller at the tracks. He doesn't seem like the sort who actually is going to pull a gun and start plugging away.
That's right. He really does not, and it's fine. It's nice to see him sort of grow up right in that sequence. Val and his goon come into the meeting place before Johnny Clay has arrived. He's running a little bit behind. Everybody's getting antsy because everything is running to a strict timeline, and yet Johnny is behind with the money. So all the other guys in the crew are waiting not so patiently when Val and his goon walk in, and that's when the gunfight ensues. They all die except for George, who returns to his house and shoots his wife in a fantastic death scene.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a great scene. His death scene more than hers, although I do love hers very much. She hears the door open and calls out to Val, which is the ultimate insult. He's already bloody, and now she's just salting him handily. He comes in, grabs the bird cage, and shoots her and falls to the ground, leaving the bird
trapped in his poor little cage. It's like, it actually is a very fitting image for this noir film. It really works well, this bird trapped in the cage.
So let's talk about the ending. I think this is one of the best endings that of any of these movies. It's just heart-wrenching.
Yeah, well, apparently they had come up with this plan where if anything had gone south and whoever it was who had the money felt that there was something wrong, they would just run, and they would leave town and eventually connect with everybody at some point. It seems like a really kind of sketchy plan, but that's apparently the plan they had.
Right.
It's like, wow, really? You're allowing for someone to run out on you with all the money.
It was a simpler time, Andy.
That's right. I'm forgetting where I am. But so Clay drives up. He sees George walking out, stumbling, all bloody. He realizes that something's gone awry, and he just hightails it to the airport where he's going to meet his fiancée, Colleen Gray, playing Faye, and basically hop on a plane, fly to Boston with all the money that he's got in this suitcase. He's gone through the whole process of transferring it from this giant duffel bag to the suitcase, so it looks like he's on a trip. And he goes, and of course they won't check, or they won't let him bring the bag on because it's too big. They have to check it, and we already know it's this horribly crappy suitcase that
he bought at a secondhand store.
It comes with keys that don't even fit. It's like, come on, man, at least buy a good suitcase for this. So he unwillingly checks the bag, and as it's driving across the tarmac on the little the baggage car, this other woman who's waiting for her husband's flight to arrive, who's got this annoying poodle, the dog hops down and, of course, just perfectly timed, runs out into the middle of the tarmac. The baggage car swerves, his suitcase falls off, explodes, all the money goes everywhere. And
it's the money goes everywhere slowly, right? I mean, they linger on that shot for a long time.
I actually, every time I see that money disappearing, I find it the most fascinating and painfully fascinating disappearance of money, because it's almost like it's like a glob of money just laying there.
Yes.
It's almost like an entity. The way that it just sits there on the tarmac in this almost like a cucumber shaped blob.
Yes.
And it's like a wind machine is blowing it, but it's like slowly just stripping the bills off of the outer sides of it until it does finally disappear. It's painful watching this thing just kind of whittle away to nothingness as it all disappears into the air. And you can just feel from, this is our character, this is our protagonist that we've been with this whole time. You could just feel the pain and the loss, and everything is worked. And he's this far, and just to see this money pickle on the tarmac just slowly strip away to nothingness, it's horribly painful.
It's horribly painful, and it's such a signature of Kubrick's patience, right?
Absolutely,
I mean, even as early as this was in his career, I mean, you can already see just lingering, and not even a slow zoom, there is no movement besides the pain of the money blowing up into the air and blowing high up into the air. This isn't a close-up shot. I mean, it's a very wide shot of the money filling the frame. It is beautiful and painful. I mean, gut-wrenchingly painful. More than watching all those characters die in that bloodbath in the hotel room is watching all $2 million blow away like this. It's epic.
And then to see him leave and just be so resigned at that point. They're trying to get a cab. No cabs are stopping. The detectives are behind him. His fiancée is just like, run. And he's just like, oh, what's the point? And just that resignation in his face.
The resignation followed up with that beautiful symmetry. The last shot of the film as those two officers come out of the opposite doors and stand on opposite sides of the frame, kind of flanking him, moving towards him so slowly, as that resignation is just paid off in prison.
Yep.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Classic.
It truly is one of those films that, I think every time I watch it, I feel like I enjoy it more and more. Just the noir tendencies throughout the film, the heist itself, I have such a fun time watching. And the characters, it's just such great faces. All of these people, a lot of them have been in a lot of different noirs. We've talked about Elisha Cook Jr. before in Maltese Falcon. Another great noir.
Mm-hmm.
Marie Windsor, like I said, has been in a lot of great noirs. Sterling Hayden, of course. And just, down the line, I mean, Joe Turkel is in this. I don't think I even recognized him, but, there he is in this. And he was in The Shining, Blade Runner. I mean, he's a guy who's been around forever, and it's so fun to see him. Just so many great faces in this film. Great characters. I mean, I think it speaks highly of both the novel that drew Kubrick and Harris to it, as well as the screenplay that Kubrick and Jim Thompson wrote together for this film. And interestingly, the way that the credits ended up landing in this film is Stanley Kubrick got credit for a screenwriter, and Jim Thompson got credit. I think initially it was additional dialogue by Jim Thompson. They've now, I guess, changed it to just dialogue by Jim Thompson. And I guess Jim Thompson, who is a pretty popular pulp kind of crime novelist of the time, who's worked with Kubrick on a number of projects, he ended up feeling pretty slighted by the credit on this because he and Kubrick had really just done the work on this script together and really spent the time adapting this novel to make it what it was. And I think he really felt slighted that Kubrick ended up getting the screenwriting credit and he only got initially, like I said, the additional dialogue credit. It's strange that it was credited that way, but the interesting thing is that it didn't stop them from working together. They ended up, I believe Thompson came on and helped him with his next several projects. So obviously the relationship wasn't broken over it, but it just speaks to the way that credits get given sometimes. It's a strange nature of them.
That makes less sense to me every time we talk about it.
It's a wacky world of arbitration, and I don't know if that's what boiled down to this one. I have no idea how the WGA was doing it back in the 50s, but it's no matter how you slice it, it's a crazy thing.
Okay, so in terms of other production elements, we've got Lucien Ballard doing the cinematography on this film.
This was it was interesting. Lucien was a cinematographer who had Kubrick had seen stuff that he had done. He'd worked on a number of projects. Like I think he'd worked with Hitchcock before, Robert Wise, some pretty big names, and maybe not Hitchcock. I don't think that was Hitchcock. But anyway, he had worked with some big studio projects, and Kubrick was drawn to him and brought him on, but Lucien and Hitchcock Lucien and Kubrick totally ended up butting heads on this film because Kubrick is such a controlling person about the look of everything in his film. And he was telling Lucien how he wanted the shots to be lit, how he wanted everything to look. And Lucien, in his mind, that was all his job. He would define how everything looked. But Kubrick was so meticulous in planning everything that he was telling Lucien how he wanted everything, and it drove Lucien nuts. And Lucien refused to even ever go sit in on any of the dailies and watch any of the footage for this film. He was so frustrated at working with Kubrick, which is sad because I think it looks great. I think it's a fantastic looking film, and
it really does. And I think this is one of those where you can see a real expertise at working with like single source lighting, and I mean they have that hard light down to a real brilliant art here. I mean, it's just every one of those sequences where you have them walking down a long hallway or through a back alley or making a transition from the locker room to the cash room. It's just, it's walking through a different universe. I think it's really beautiful.
It truly is. I mean, it's a great looking film. It really fits in. I think it fits in nicely with the noir films.
Oh, yeah. Right at home. And we've got Gerald Fried.
He did the music. I think it works really nicely in this film. I don't think it. Again, interestingly, for all these heist films, none of them stand out like, oh, I just want to go sit and listen to those themes all the time. But I think they all are completely very serviceable for the films themselves, and I think they all work really well. Gerald Fried had known Kubrick since high school and composed music for his first 4 films. And so he'd been around with him for a little while. And I believe he had also done some work on some of the original Star Trek TV shows.
Indeed he did.
Yeah.
He is, really adept television, producing music for television. Star Trek, The Man from Uncle Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
He's been doing that for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Strong noir themes. And, we were talking about Inside Man, and what I so liked about the music in that was, when it would fall back to those more noirish themes. This is what I wanted out of that music for Inside Man. It felt right at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. Who else?
I think that's I think that's most of the crew. James B. Harris, the producer, he and Kubrick actually had met, I think, a few years before this, and Kubrick had just done Killer's Kiss and said, hey, I've got this kind of open door with United Artists. And so he and James Harris, they had kind of connected, come together, and they were looking for projects to do. They're trying to find one. They ended up finding The Killing. They thought, or a Clean Slate, not Clean Slate, Clean Break, sorry. They found this book. They wanted to adapt it. They went to United Artists, and United Artists said, great, sounds good, but we're not going to give you any money for it. Give us a script. And so they were like, oh, fine, we got it. So they ended up having to do all the work. United Artists finally gave them some money to do it. I think once they had a script, once they had Sterling Hayden attached, they ended up giving them $200,000 to make this film. Harris felt like they needed a little more. He ended up putting $120,000 or $130,000 of his own money toward the project to finish the financing that they used in getting this film made. But he, interestingly, he went on. He produced a number of films with Kubrick. I think Paths of Glory and Lolita, and then he talked to Kubrick and said, you know what, I love doing this, but I really want to try directing. And Kubrick was just like, I love working together. I love our collaboration, but I totally understand the joy of directing when you see the rushes, when you see the work that you've done up on screen. You really feel something there. And I totally understand and I support you. And so Harris went off and started directing his own films. I think he started in 1965 with a Cold War thriller called The Bedford Incident, which I haven't seen, but after watching this, I'm kind of curious too.
He did not direct much.
No, I think his directorial efforts were few.
Few and rather far between. Looks like his last film was Boiling Point in 1993. Interesting.
Yeah.
With, Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, there you go.
Always bet on black, my friend. I don't know if you knew that, but that's an important lesson.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
One I learned from the Snipes.
Movie didn't do well in the box office, I think largely because of what we have already discussed. It was new to people.
Yeah.
This non-linear approach to narrative storytelling.
Harrison Kubrick told United Artists, this is a film that needs a small opening in like a limited run of theaters. It needs to have an advertising campaign built up to really help audiences kind of be prepared for what they're going to see. And then it can kind of build on word of mouth. That's not what United Artists gave it. Like I said, they just kind of threw it out into the theaters, almost just dumped it there. And it really failed, even though it got, critically praised. Time Magazine said, this is going to be one of the big films of the year. And it just really, from everything that I've read, it performed poorly at the box office. I couldn't find anything as far as figures, except for the fact that they said it recorded a loss of $130,000. So if that says anything, if it costs $330,000 to make, that means that it only made $200,000 at the box office. So it definitely didn't do very well.
That's a shame. But it's nice to see it has some staying power and looks like some cult follow. I think now that it is, that it's cemented as part of the noir gestalt, it's absolutely worth seeing.
Yeah, it's a film that I never grow tired of. Every time I watch it, I find new things to enjoy, new characters to root for, just all the little things that Kubrick injects into the film that these characters do. I have so much fun watching this film, and I can see why this is one of the films that Roger Ebert put in his favorite movies lists, those like top 100 lists that he would do. I can see why he would put it there, because it is so well worth it. It is such a fun film to watch, and just a fascinating story about these characters and watching their lives and their crime fall apart.
This is one of those movies where once you see it all the way through, you could watch the last half hour 1,000 times and never get sick of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that last half hour is some exemplary strong filmmaking, and I really like you said, I never get tired of it. We haven't talked about Colleen Gray, have we?
Not really. I mean, I mentioned her that she's kind of his fiance, but other than that, she's in it only for a couple scenes. But it is tragic to see her as we at the end there. It is very sad.
Man, Colleen Gray.
It's always interesting these women connected with these tragic noir characters as they watch their men basically unfold and their lives ruined.
Yeah.
It's interesting the tragedy of women who end up with men who are criminals, and whether they're struggling to make right or not, especially in the world of noir films, it's always just such a tragedy for the woman who's attached to them.
It is, especially at the end, because she's has gotten the payoff. You believe she has the payoff, and then they watch the money disappear.
Yeah.
And she's alone. Oh,
yep.
So sad. I love this film. We should flick chart it. Are you ready?
Go for it. Tell them where to find us. Tell them where to find us.
Okay. Stop. You can find us at flickchart.com/thenextreel, and you should go there because, that's where you can find our top list of films as we rank them each week and see what our favorite films are on the next reel. You should do that. It's good. You should follow us there. We'll follow you back. Then it's not a very popular. I mean, it's a tool for us. Not very many people follow us on Flickchart, and that's a shame. But it's a tool for us to keep our top 100. You can jump right to it if you go to thenextreel.com. You'll see the next reel top 100 on Flickchart right there on the sidebar. You should click on that. You can jump over there and friend us if you're interested in ranking your own films.
Yeah, it's just a fun way to rank movies. You ready?
I'm ready.
The Killing or The Sandlot?
I'm going to say The Killing.
I'm totally going with The Killing. I'm a big fan of The Killing.
Yeah.
I'm
that's
curious
good.
to see how high this one rises.
Me too.
The Killing or Zero Dark 30?
Oh.
I'll go Killing on this one too.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a fantastic. I kind of have an affinity for noir films. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I do too.
So,
but Zero Dark 30.
I know Zero Dark 30 is a very powerful film, top notch in every way. But The Killing, for me, just will always hold this amazingly powerful, strong hold on my heart because I just find it such a fascinating story to watch. I love these characters. I love the crime. I'm totally The Killing.
That's going to be my new ringtone. I'm totally into crime, totally into killing. Okay, I'll do it. I am also into crime and killing, Andy.
For no other reason than you've got a new ringtone. All right. Oh, now we're getting into real tough ones. Interesting. 2 films where you watch a fortune blow away in the wind. The Killing or The Treasure of the Sierra Madre?
Oh, that's
a tough one.
Very, very difficult. But I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you why I'm going to say The Killing.
Tell me.
Because to me, Treasure of the Sierra Madre is a fantastic film made on fantastic sequences, individual sequences. And The Killing is, I think, a stronger story beginning to end.
Yet The Treasure of the Sierra Madre has an amazing opportunity, or provides an amazing opportunity, to delve into characters and their journey into madness. I'm torn.
I am torn too, because I mean, we've talked about this a number of times. The sequences that really stand out to me, obviously, when Bogart loses it, that whole sort of 20 minutes of him derailing is incredibly powerful. But on the whole, if you take that out, does it stand up to the Killing on the whole?
Boy, I
that's
kind of feel.
Where I'm thinking.
I feel it does.
Really?
Yeah. I love watching those characters in that film. Something about Walter Houston and his.
Walter Houston was awesome.
Joy, when he finds the gold, and just watching these 2 interesting characters as they psychologically battle with each other. Boy,
I know.
I'm torn with this one.
We
I'm
don't,
torn.
in fact, need any badges.
We don't need any badges. Oh, man. I don't know.
Maybe I was too rash. I don't know. Now your hesitation has given me time to rethink.
Yeah. I feel like I have to go with Sierra Madre. Something about Fred C. Dobbs and just this mad quest for gold. The characters, the journey.
Okay.
It's a tough one. I really think I could almost go either way. All right, The Killing or Moneyball?
I'm going to say Moneyball.
I could go almost either way on this one, too.
I'm going to say Moneyball. I'm going to say Moneyball and remind you that I've just given you two.
All right. Well, and here's what I'll say. I'm going to go with Moneyball if for the only reason that The Killing, if anything, still has kind of the dated narration with it. And it's the only thing I think that still is, for me, is a little, I don't want to say problematic, but it's one of those things that does date it a little bit. So I'm going Moneyball. I'll go with that one.
All right.
The Killing or When Harry Met Sally?
Killing.
I was going to be shocked if you said When Harry
I
Met
know.
Sally. Because they're always like, I'm so not interested in watching romantic comedies. Oh, my goodness. I'll go with The Killing on that one, too.
You should.
This is an interesting one. The Killing or The Bank Job? Getting some of our heist films.
Oh, right. I'm going to say The Killing out of respect for my elders.
Smart man. Smart move. All of my film school friends will like you now. The Killing or The Outlaw Josie Wales? Oh, boy. I
boy.
Josie Wales. There's something about the take that the different spin he has on the Western with it. And the fact that he's kind of playing with the genre a little bit. I feel like I'm a Josie Wales man, I think, on this one.
I'm really torn. I think I'll join you on Josie Wales. I think that film, I think you're right. It's a very unique take on the Westerns. I think it's also a very, I think it's a really impeccably strong performance from Eastwood in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that we've had such a struggle with this film.
Yeah.
It just shows that our top, 20, 30, 40 films, however many it is, we have so many films in here that we really enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to rank some of these. There we are. We're number 20. 20 out of 96.
Interesting.
There you go. Getting up there.
It's getting up there. I wonder.
You wonder what?
That one. So usually we do this flick chart thing, and at the end I say something like, "Oh, yeah, that feels pretty good." That's kind of my gut reaction. Is that movie's at 20 out of 96? Okay. Well, in this case, I don't have that reaction. I hear you say, "There you go, it's 20," and I say to myself, "That feels too low."
Yeah.
So I don't know. Worth sitting on.
We know we've got a little bit of work to do with our.
Yeah.
We got to do some re-ranking.
We got to do a little re-rank.
Play around with it a little bit. Yeah.
Maybe that'll be our annual event. We should do an annual re-rank.
There you go.
All right.
Wow,
what do we do? What are we moving on to next week?
Well, we finished up our Heist series with this fantastic film, and we're going to start a brand new series, Couples on the Run. This is a series that was, I think, kind of inspired by one of our fans who commented on Facebook, when was it? When we were talking about, was it when Tony Scott? It was around the time when he committed suicide, and we were talking about his films and how many great films he had, and True Romance came up, and the idea of doing some of his films, and it kind of spurred us on to this whole idea of, it would be really fun to do some of these great Couples on the Run films.
That's right. It was the Tony Scott thing.
I think that is what spurred on this thing.
So our new series, Couples on the Run, we're starting next week with Midnight Run. Interesting take on a couple on the run.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that film.
You know, I always have fun watching that film. Charles Grodin is just a piece of work, and I absolutely love watching him.
Yeah, oh, Charles Grodin. Yeah, why don't we see more Charles Grodin just in life?
I don't know. Didn't he retire from acting, or is he one of those people?
Ugh, holier than thou.
Too many people with their, I'm retiring.
I'm retiring. I'm gonna go do something and cleanse my soul. This filth.
Oh,
Villainy,
goodness.
vile filth and villainy of Hollywood.
I tell you. These people.
Good fun then. I think that's it. I think we're done. Check us out, nextreel.com. We'll be back with Midnight Run next week.
Sayonara.
We wanted to take a moment to thank you for your continued support over the years. It's hard to believe that we've been having weekly, in-depth discussions about movies since 2011.
That's right, 12 years and counting. Producing this show is a labor of love for us, but it does require a lot of time and effort each week.
If you enjoy our podcast and would love to help keep it going, there are some easy ways you can show your support. One is by using our Originals page to shop for the original source material that movies we've discussed were based on.
That's right. In Season 1 alone, we covered 13 films adapted from books or plays, from Charlie Kaufman's adaptation to David Fincher adaptations like Fight Club.
In Season 2, we covered even more, like Powell and Pressburger's The Red Shoes and The African Queen from our series about legendary cinematographer Jack Cardiff.
We can't forget about the 4 Jason Bourne movies we talked about. Love those movies. Well, the original trilogy, at least.
For our Richard D. Zanuck series, we did Jaws, Rush, Big Fish, and more. And for our horror series, we talked about John Carpenter's The Thing, which was adapted from Who Goes There?
We did our first great car chase series with movies like Bullet, The French Connection, and Drive. And for the holidays, we did Preston Sturgis's Christmas in July.
We had a great John Huston series with adaptations like The Maltese Falcon and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
And for our baseball series, Moneyball with Brad Pitt. Have I told you lately how much I love that movie?
Yeah, I think you have. Plus, our Magician series and Heist film series had adaptations as well.
Tons of page-to-screen gems. Listeners can find the details and links to the original material at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play, or movie you buy through our links helps support the show, and it's no extra cost to you.
So dive in and get your next read today. thenextreel.com/originals has all the films adapted from other sources that not only we have covered, but all of the shows on the Next Reel family of podcasts. Check it out and get reading.
Support the show and build your reading list. It's a win-win. Head to thenextreel.com/originals.